morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good morning, sun.
And good morning. And we have a lighting issue. Interesting. It's over here. I don't know what's going on, but let's see. We're doing some troubleshooting here. Well, you may just have to live with it. I know it's unacceptable. Poor quality. Hello, Mo. Come on in. Let me see if I can do some last minute vibe camera work and program, aperture, shutter, manual. The problem is this is blown out. So how does one adjust? Oh, look at that. What is that? 1/60th? Okay, maybe we go with that. That's kind of a hack, but as I will explain, there we go. That's not bad. Okay, the white shirt kind of messes things up. Welcome to photography. So, yeah, that's still a little bright. Let's see. Let's go down to 1/320th. Okay, cool. Little bit of a hack. So, welcome. Come on in. Cheers. I am nursing a coffee and a headache and a cold. I know, you're shocked, but my daughter was home at sick with a fever this week, so. What? I'm going to fire this guy. What does he think he's doing? Seriously? Okay, let's try that over again. A little bit of rewind action there. You can see how this is going to go and why it's 10:30, 2 hours late. Anyway, okay, ask some questions. Jump in the chat. How's it going? Hello, Mo. Have you been coding on your iWatch? What is it called? Apple Watch? If you haven't been coding on your Apple Watch, like, are you even a developer anymore? If you aren't vibe coding by talking to your watch, you should just hang your head in shame, because now you can tell this person is not a real developer because they got VS Code on a watch. A real developer would be banging out Claude prompts in a CLI or TUI on their watch, voice prompts, don't even need to look at it. And yes, Brad, they would have a Claude bot doing these things for them. They would have a Space Lobster AI personal assistant on their watch. And if you don't understand that reference, I don't know if we can be friends, because that's what all the cool kids are talking about. So, I would love to just vibe code by voice on my phone, on my watch, whatever. Just send the prompt. It goes off, does stuff, and you come back to a fully formed PR. Okay, the weekend, el fin de semana. I kind of touched grass or plastic and car parts this weekend to kind of step away from the vibe coding scene. You know, I'm kind of a vibe coding veteran myself at this point, so I decided to step away, and I watched a video by a guy named Chris Fix on YouTube, and he's been making videos for ages, and he took this ratty, horrible, disgusting, like, you just wanted to burn this minivan. This ratty, low-end minivan, just absolute trash pile. He made that thing immaculate. And in addition to just doing all the stuff on the interior, which requires a lot of work, one interesting thing I just never even considered was detailing the engine bay. Like I'm familiar with spraying out the engine bay or pressure washing or whatever, at your own peril. But he did a full-on detailing. Okay, how do I turn off Teams? For the love of all that is holy, get out of there. Okay. He detailed the engine bay, and I've never even considered this process. And so apparently this whole thing now, you get these boar hair or nylon brushes, and you're like going in every nook and cranny and crevice. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And the results were phenomenal. So he did like he has another video where he does like 6 cars and shows the before and after. Absolutely amazing what he accomplished. So I did that, and turns out my engine bay was actually pretty clean. I park in a garage. I keep it clean. I've wiped it down before, but this is just wiping it down and cleaning it off. And I was like, oh, pretty cool. And then I went to the next step and actually scrubbed it and cleaned it, and then put this little, it's kind of like the Armor All or wax or whatever on all the plastic, and immaculate. Pretty amazing. Doesn't take long. Very simple. And yeah. So absolutely no one other than the guy who changes my oil is going to appreciate this. But it was pretty cool. Cleaned it up nice. And in the process, I'm like, I haven't tested my battery in a little while. So I did a battery test, and my AGM battery, which I thought was only a couple years old, wasn't doing so hot. And it turns out if you put these little stickers, little P-Touch labels or stickers on the battery, and all these things, when you put these labels on there, you're like, oh, yeah, I changed the air filter, couldn't have been a year ago. You'll come back and you're like, wait, I installed this in 2021? How is that possible? There it is, installed 12/30/2021. I wrote down the CA, the CCA, the last 2 tests, and it's been 3 years since I even checked this battery. So I tested it, it's running low. And so hooked up the battery charger. I have this fancy Optima that I found. It's got the quick connect things, installed that, charged it up. And then I learned about AGMs. They're a little different than your normal flooded lead acid batteries. And I learned about sulfation. And I learned that some AGMs, I don't know if it's all AGMs, have a higher voltage for the cyclic charging. And if you have a normal alternator that is not designed for higher voltage AGMs, you will be voiding the warranty and will essentially be not damaging, but wearing out the AGM faster. So I connected in the hardwired quick connect there using wire loom, plastic wire loom, and Tessa tape. If you're in the know, you know how cool that is. So went the full mile, hardwired it in, wire loom, Tessa tape, got it all hooked up. And then I started the charging process over the weekend. So there we are. And this Optimate 7 has 3 voltage options. So I went with a 14.7 volt charging to try and desulfate the AGM. So yeah, that's what I do in my free time when I'm not vibe coding. And on Friday, I watched the 50th episode of Drumeo for the first time. And the 50th episode was the host. His name is Brandon. They had, I think it was Chad Smith come in or someone else, and they made Brandon hear a song for the first time and play drums. And if you haven't seen or watched this series, it is phenomenal, absolutely amazing. And one of the most popular of the videos is Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers playing 30 Seconds to Mars song. Just absolutely amazing to watch these world-class top musicians, drummers to play a song for the first time after maybe 5, 10, 20 minutes of listening to it. It is very much art, musical art. So highly recommend it. Fantastic series, widely popular among even non-musicians like me. So with that was a busy weekend. Weekly projects. I attempt to learn Teams Planner. haven't made much progress that far. Vibe conference presentations, and by Vibe, I don't mean Vibe coding, I mean the Vibe conference, proper name, by partnerin.io, Molly and Liz, coming up in Texas. So I worked on my presentations. We have actual Vibe code PRs, as in AL development. Check reports 1099s. Our partner dashboard app is ready for deployment. PTE event troubleshooting. Steve learns a little bit about that. And AL Vibe coding demo to a junior dev who I left slack-jawed. Thank you very much. Tip of the hat. Monday, I tried to use Microsoft Teams Planner, created a new project, and it looks cool. It probably demos great, but then when you go to use it, you're just like, oh my God, I'm just fighting with this thing. So I may just start from blank and see how I do, because trying to modify their pre-defaulted templates, like you just click in the wrong place and it moves around. It's just like you're fighting with this UI. It is super touchy. It looks nice. It seems like it's functional, but just the clicks and trying to enter what you want, super tedious. And like, it is amazing, more on this later, it is amazing how much people make excuses for bad software. People don't even notice anymore. My lovely partner in crime, Tanya, will apologize and just accept, like, she'll learn how to use something and it's like, oh, it's not that bad. It's like, no, it is objectively horrible for a user trying to accomplish something. And Teams Planner is one of those. Like, on the surface, fits the bill, works, has lots of features, does the job. When you try to click on something and accomplish something, it is just, oh, come on, man. Like, it just makes the job 5 times harder than it is. So I want an agent that I just talk to and tell it to do this and set up my Teams Planner for me. It may be fine to use Teams Planner for a pre-existing, pre-set up project, but to set up that project, oh, painful. So maybe I get Claudebot to hit some Graph API to set up a Teams Planner for me. Maybe that's what I need, because I'm not about to do the 6,000 clicks required to get this set up. And I'm not even going to pronounce this guy's name. This smart person says, or he basically quotes Peter of Claudebot fame. I don't like pull requests, PRs anymore. A large chunk of code change doesn't tell me much about the intent or why it was done. I now prefer prompt requests. Just share the prompt you ran or want to run. If I think it's good, I'll run it myself and merge it. Totally agree. If you're the maintainer, right? Now, if my junior dev submits a PR and I have to approve it, I'm not going to review the vibe coded PR. Like, I know he vibe coded it. Submit the prompt along with the PR, the commit message, the PR summary. And actually, we just went through that this week. Franklin made a change, submitted the PR, fully vibe coded PR summary. I read it. I'm like, great, done, approved. Let's go. So yeah, like, don't expect the approver to read through your code. If you're vibe coding, submit your PR with a full summary explaining what's going on, and ideally your prompt. Sounds good. Tuesday, Martez, Copilot agent mode in Excel. I was completely unaware of this feature, but apparently in September 2025, about 12 years ago, in AI world, Microsoft introduced agent mode and Office agent in Microsoft 365 Copilot, whatever those words mean. Apparently now, in limited fashion at the moment, you can open Excel. And if you have a Copilot subscription, by which I mean a Microsoft 365 Copilot subscription, not to be confused with the 97 other Copilot subscriptions, this will allow you to talk to Microsoft Excel agent and say, hey, here's my pile of data. Please identify the problems with the data. Please fill in the missing cells. Please correct this column with, find the mistakes or whatever. Find the blanks. And it will do it. Now, if you do not have a Microsoft 365 subscription, Copilot subscription, whatever, you can still ask it to do the same things. But from what I found in my initial test, it just won't interact with your open worksheet, workbook, whatever. If I say, hey, here's my file that is missing country codes in this list, and I say fix it, it won't actually interact with that workbook. But instead, it'll take that, it'll prepare an entirely new workbook you can download. So that was pretty cool. And I'm a little too lazy to pay for M365 Copilot blah, blah, blah subscription at the moment, but interesting. So we're looking into this. I don't have a trial or free license of this. So yeah, if you deal with Excel a lot, this may be something to look into and have someone prototype it, pay the $30 or whatever a month, and see what you can do with Excel. And the use case that comes to mind for us as a consulting practice is if a customer hands us 30 different files to clean up for configuration packages for data migration, sure, have 365 Copilot go to town on this data interactively and selectively clean up the messy data that's in there. And you could say it's impossible, it's not going to be able to do that. Well, you'd be surprised. You never know. So I think it may be a little more capable than you might think. But it might also hallucinate halfway through your financial data and just scramble all the data. Only one way to find out. So I say YOLO, go for it, and vibe it. Thank you to Ted for sending me this email, which I didn't get, despite being a SonicWall customer who uses Cloud Secure Edge. Anecdote is a great point. I do not know if there are any limitations on data set. So that's a great point. He says it might be too much in tokens to handle a big data set. Very good point. So if you have 500,000 rows in this Excel file, you probably don't want to send that entire data set to Copilot and say, analyze this. It'll probably exceed its input token limit and or output token limit. So excellent point. So yeah, we have to figure out what can it do, what can't it do, right? So SonicWall sent out an update, which I did not receive. I'm not insulted at all. What's new with Cloud Secure Edge? And I have been a big fan of this since I implemented it, had a call with SonicWall. They helped me configure it. It has been flawless, like knock on walnut. I've been very impressed. iPhone, iPad, Windows, Mac OS. I don't know if I've used it on Linux. They have a Linux version, but phenomenal network overlay, remote access tool for use with SonicWall, accounts, firewalls, whatever. Very effective. Now, the one thing I still have not done is set up what they call an access tier, and that is a dedicated Linux node, client, whatever, that allows you to connect remotely and route all traffic through your LAN and your ISP so it doesn't route through the Cloud Secure Edge data center presence. So that's what I'm working on. And apparently the official term of this is a network overlay. You may have heard of products like Tailscale, also fantastic. But if you want to control the data, if you want to control the exit nodes, if you want to control the client, if you want to include firewall integration, endpoint protection, then something like Cloud Secure Edge or Palo Alto has their own. I'm sure Fortinet has their own, although as you'll see, you may want to avoid that. But yeah, moving on. Wednesday, miércoles, I attended an anti-siphon training, which is a cybersecurity training organization phenomenal organization related to Black Hills Information Security, BHIS, John Strand, and the people they bring on are absolutely world class. In this case, it was threat hunting malware communication over DNS by Fan Rosu. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think I won't even guess where he's coming from, somewhere on the planet Earth. And he talked about threat hunting C2 over DNS. Masterclass. Absolute masterclass in DNS, C2 communication, data exfiltration, and leveraging DNS for, to try and obfuscate data communications, malicious communications. And it is now on YouTube. Search for anti-siphon training, anti-siphon, SYPHON. Phenomenal session. And just, even if you don't care about this, even if you don't understand it, just listen. Fawn does an amazing job communicating how this thing works and how the attackers use different techniques throughout DNS to leverage DNS in order to communicate either signaling, command and control messages, or data exfiltration payloads. Really, just... And I talked to Ted about this, and we're kind of commiserating, how can we possibly deal with this? This is before I attended the webinar. Once I attended the webinar, I'm like, oh, this is theoretically achievable for someone who is not a cybersecurity expert, who does not have cybersecurity resources, and just a few simple techniques could theoretically allow you to implement C2 threat monitoring via DNS through a few simple free tools. And really phenomenal presentations. You could instantly see that you have 5,000 subdomains queried against your DNS server for this domain you've never heard of, and you have no corresponding traffic to correlate with those DNS requests. You can do that with 2 free tools. Phenomenal presentation. So I highly recommend it if, you're cooking dinner, doing laundry, washing the car, just put it on audio only. Phenomenal, actual, just genius presentation. And in the real or swap tweet question, I have just this as an example, and this kind of feels like slop to me. And this person is supposedly sharing how to configure Entra to do something. And it's a criticism of Entra that you could read this 2-page tweet, which no one has time for that, right? And at the end of it, you'll have no idea what this means. I don't have any idea what this means because it doesn't actually communicate anything. It's just like blah, blah, blah about these concepts. Like remove, let's see. Configure credential restrictions such as requiring shorter-lived secrets or enforcing use of certificates. I actually know what that one means, but high-privileged applications should have no direct owners. Use managed identities wherever possible and negates the need for credential handling. Like, you need to know what all this stuff is. But then this goes on for 2 pages, and I honestly can't tell if it was handwritten, but it looks like slop. So it's really hard fighting slop tweets these days. BC V27 1099s. My partner in crime, Tanya, I said, hey, this is a mess. BC V27 1099s are truly a mess. And then she says, oh, I figured it out. I'm going to do a video on it. And I gave her a little grief that this video is not a how-to video. It is not a tutorial video. It is a rambling what not to do in BCV 27 1099s, in which Steve and Tanya explain they figured it out. They don't bother to explain how they figured it out. So I take it as a demonstration of what an absolute mess the user experience is. All due respect, I understand how hard it is to do this, but BCV 27's 1099s are an absolute user experience disaster. And I'm not saying the product is a disaster. I'm saying the user experience for an end user trying to even remotely figure out how to configure and use 1099 features in V27, sorry, you get an F. It's just horrible. Like, they seriously need to rethink this from the perspective of the harried end user who's got 27 things on their plate, and they have to figure this out. They don't want a PhD in how to configure this. They need to produce 1099s, and the BCV27 experience does not help that. It fully hinders the user from trying to figure out what's going on. Very, very poor design. The functionality may be fine. It may kind of work. It may have great capabilities, but the process by which a user is expected to make this work, I am sorry. Like, who let this out the door? There was no consideration for user experience in this process. And with that, if you want to knock someone's socks off and show them vibe coding, pull up this bad boy. This is a fully vibe coded wireframe for Business Central showing a custom page. And those of you, and I see a couple in the audience here, those of you who have attended my AL or watched my AL vibe coding live stream know where this came from. And this you can do in maybe 1 minute, a minute 30 if it's running slow. Phenomenal. This is a fully vibe coded SVG wireframe of a custom Business Central page, 1 or 2 sentence prompt. That's all it takes. I didn't create this. I couldn't create this. I wouldn't bother. It would take too long. Absolute masterpiece. So I had a call on Wednesday with a colleague and his junior dev who was vaguely familiar with AI, like ChatGPT or whatever, and asking it questions in a web interface, had never seen what I'll call agentic development, full-on vibe coding. And so for an hour, we were supposed to discuss something else. But as soon as I started showing the process of vibe coding that I use, it was, wait, what did you just do? How did you do that? What tool is that? Wait, how, what? And how, what, why? It was just constant nonstop questions. Like I was just witchcraft, wizardry, right? To me at this point, and if those of you who have watched my vibe coding videos, this is old hat. This is no big deal. To the 2 people on this call, they were absolutely blown away, speechless. And this poor junior dev was on the call. He just ended with, I had no idea any of this was possible. And he was just absolutely blown away by the capabilities. And I think that's why there may be a lot of resistance to AI. Like, how do you start? Well, you go to Steve's YouTube channel and watch this wackadoodle do crazy things with AL vibe coding. And I'm no genius. I just type in words in a box, and you could actually just say those words. Like, lazy people should just be talking to the IDE. But a few sentences and boom, you've got this amazing product to show. So give it a try. And I skipped over reverse avoided check. We had a support ticket. BC customer submit says, we need to reverse avoided check so that we can resurrect that check and reapply it to a vendor invoice. Now, if those words make any sense to you, and yes, I know that one of my viewers of the AL Vibe Code live stream is here, and he agrees. Too many things have happened too fast. The number of people, like most people, can't handle it. Now, I would say if they, like I don't even know how to explain what's going on. And I don't know if I did it last week or this week, but I shared there's a quote somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, we're going to do fully live on the fly. Let me find this tweet. Copy image. Okay, let's see if we're doing it live. Okay, so here you go. Exact sentiment. At this point, I've lost the ability to explain to normies what's happening with AI. 100%. right? 100%. If you are on X and you're watching the AI conversation unfold like Claudebot, I cannot explain to anyone what the significance of a space lobster AI assistant is. Like, that means nothing to normies. Yet all of us on Twitter and X are just mind blown with the capabilities, and we're just running with it, right? I'm watching them type in MS Word, proud of template someone made years ago, while models are eating their entire job categories. It feels insane. 100%. It's like standing in a burning room where everyone's arguing about fonts or asking for the 100th time, how the hell we add a page break. It is so over. Yeah, like I just don't even know how to communicate. And so when I get on a call and I demonstrate this wireframe that I didn't create, I just vibed it into existence with a few words. Like, not going to make it, folks, if you are not just embracing this wholeheartedly and running like a mad person to make it happen and just having fun every second of the day. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, let's move this up. Let's cover up Tanya and let's go with it. Okay, so customer wanted to reverse a voided check, reapply it to the vendor invoice. We look at their records. Someone had, fortunately, they had unapplied the check before they voided it. So that was at least one thing they did right. They voided a check, and then they realized, wait, that vendor invoice is now open. So what did they do? They created a credit memo to apply to that open invoice for the vendor to hide the fact that something was wrong. Unbeknownst to them, there's this little thing called a bank rec that discovers that there should have been a check because it got sent to that vendor. And so now it unfolds that someone voided a check, then created a credit memo, applied it to an open invoice when there was nothing wrong with the check in the first place. And so the customer asked me, where's the button that just fixes all of this at once? And I said, sorry, this is an accounting system. Accounting systems do not take kindly to undoing voided checks and making credit memos disappear just to make your bank rec look pretty. So I sent them instructions, need to validate that my instructions were correct, but that was my support call. Welcome to my world. In the new camera category, those of you who were early to show up, you will have noticed I was futzing with this camera, which was a $1,000 repair because my trusty Sony, which has been great since like 2020, 2021 or something like that, solid 5 years, it's been a trooper, is now making a gear grinding noise that sounds like a blender with the phone in it. And unfortunately, I couldn't tell if it was the camera or the lens until I said, well, I better order both as a backup. Turns out it's the camera, to my surprise. And there's some gears in there, and it's grinding. And yeah, so $1,000 later, I now have... Eric, will you say hi from Pavlo F. to Yulia? She'll be surprised. Hello, Pavlo. Hello, Eric. Pavlo and Eric, meet and greet in my chat. Awesome. So $1,000 later, I have a new camera thanks to the dude on eBay who packed it up. He's a SoCal resident, turns out. And I haven't yet received the lens. That should be coming today, I believe. And so now I'm back up and running. I need to figure out a few exposure settings, obviously. But yes. Okay, Thursday, Jueves. I worked on my Vibe conference presentation prep, scaling with nearshore talent, in which I talk about my experience trying to build a nearshore practice, consulting development practice for Business Central in El Salvador. And I'm going to reach out to a outsourced nearshore service provider in Uruguay. So I'm in touch with the CEO and going to try to have a call with him next week to learn what services he provides, how he does it. And if you're in the US, Canada, and you want to outsource to a nearshore provider in Latin America, Mexico, Central America, South America, how do you go about doing that? What does it cost? What's the process? How do you try and avoid a bad experience? Because the people I've spoken to who have had any outsourced offshore experience, it has universally been negative. And I can fully relate to those. So they now refuse to consider it. They've been burned. They've learned the lesson. And my argument to that is it takes skills. It takes entirely new and different skills to work with an outsourced nearshore, offshore consulting, development, support, call center partner, whatever the case is. You cannot simply contact this and dump it on them and expect it to go well. You, as the customer, have to learn entirely new skills. So I'm going to talk to that firm in Uruguay. Uruguay is one of the top IT providers for nearshore services to North America, by the way. Supposedly very high quality services, very good English capabilities in theory. I'll test that. And based on my research, Mexico is the number one nearshore service provider to US and Canada. However, when it comes to higher end IT consultancy services, it seems that Colombia might be a top provider to North America for English higher end IT services. So if you know anyone who provides higher end Business Central, Dynamics, Power Platform, nearshore consulting services from Mexico or Colombia, I would like to speak with them. And then I set up a new project with Alpaca and DevOps, and I had to do it manually because our automated script is not yet ready. We're still working on it, and it was painful. I love Alpaca, not a fan of DevOps. It is an arduous, tedious, painful process. Yes. So Eric says outsourcing doesn't work. You can insource resources in a different location. Yes. And so, yes. So I did in what is formally called in-house nearshore, or I don't like the name. It's called captured inshore, global resource center, something like that. I don't like the word captured. It's very strange. Sounds like a ransom. But we developed our own in-house nearshore consulting practice. And there are then the outsource consulting services that you can nearshore. So yes, I would agree with the sentiment, though. You have to take responsibility. You cannot simply hand this off to a vendor and expect them to perform well. I don't think it'll work. Expectations will be wrong, delivery will not work, and customer responsibility will not be adequate in order to make that happen. So I got through Alpaca DevOps project setup in our 35-page procedure guide, and as expected, I was missing one instruction in our 35-page guide, which somehow I got through in the past, and I set it up wrong. And I'm like, why doesn't my branch show up in VS Code? It's because I missed one drop-down option in DevOps. Absolute user experience nightmare, speaking of user experience. So we are fully automating this with scripts, in theory, turnkey, to go from the error-prone 30 to 60-minute process to a hopefully less error-prone, reliable 5-minute process. And then I had to go to the eye doctor yesterday. I had to go to the ophthalmologist because something is wrong with my eye. And I found some new interesting tech. So these days, I kind of enjoy going to these dentists, doctors, whatever, because they have these amazing new technologies. This is called a tonometer, I don't know, something like that. And this is by a company called eye care. And this thing replaces the dilation and puff of air in your eye in order to measure, I believe it is measuring ocular pressure. Unbeknownst to me, while this was being used on both of my eyes, it has this little probe that actually touched my eyes. I had no idea. The woman was done checking my pressure, 12 and 13, by the way. I don't know if that's good or bad. But she says, oh, there you go, all done. And I'm like, what is that? How does it work? And so I asked her and she showed me, and there's this little probe, disposable probe that actually touches your eye to measure the ocular pressure. And it does 5 samples and a little light goes green or red, beep, 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 beep. And I'm like, what just happened? It's touching the eye to measure the ocular pressure, and I literally didn't feel it. She says some patients do feel it. I didn't even know it was happening. And I'm like, what just happened? How did that work? And so she showed me. Phenomenal technology. Now, apparently some old school purists do not like this because it touches the eye, and apparently they don't like that. But apparently they have multiple products, really high end, and it's quick, convenient, doesn't require dilation, doesn't require the machine to puff the eye, and especially can be done by the assistant. It does not require the optometrist or ophthalmologist to perform the task. So really amazing technology, folks. Cyber updates. Dumpster fire of cyber. If you use any Fortinet products, lo siento, my apologies. Boy, it is a rough time for Fortinet customers. There isn't a week that doesn't go by when there isn't some type of Fortinet CVE. In this case, it's FortiSIM, actively exploited command injection flaw, unauthorized remote code execution, allows you to basically own the machine. Now, I don't know that anyone would expose FortiSIM publicly, but boom, there you go. If an attacker gets into your network and you have it internal, pwned, as they say. This is really interesting. Just saw this morning. This Twitter account, iSolst, details on how browser extensions can be bought and sold. Fascinating. So this Tuckner account talked about a browser extension called Paste Ready. Was a legitimate browser extension. It was purchased on December 27th. From December 27th through like January 6th. So as of the purchase, it immediately was pushed, December 30th, pushed malware through this browser extension. So I would have thought they would have been a little faster in this, but maybe they didn't have access to the source code yet, and it took them 3 days. But in 3 days, they converted this legitimate browser extension to a malware payload and deployed malicious code in this browser extension, which, to the best of my knowledge, cannot be detected by endpoint protection. I have Cylance. I have used Sentinel-1. I do not believe they can detect or control browser extensions. They don't know that it's malicious. They don't even know that it got installed. They can't roll it back, and very, very difficult to deal with this attack vector. So this phenomenal process. You're basically buying victims, and you have the full deployment capability through this browser extension. Very cool. Next up, this was interesting. So if you have had to deal with certificates, whether these are SSL certs, code signing certs, whatever, particularly code signing certs in this case, you know what a pain in the butt they are to get, and they are now reducing the lifespan of these certs, so you have to reissue them constantly now. This is called SignTool EX. It is a code signing tool that allows you to use expired, leaked, or stolen certificates without adjusting your system clock. Think about this. So code signing certs are essentially useless at this point, because even though you play by all the rules, you have a legitimate code signing cert that constantly expires. You have to constantly renew it, constantly fix it. The bad guys don't have to do any of this. They just take a leaked, expired cert and somehow they're able to change the expiration date, sign their malicious code with a year of 3000, and deploy their malicious apps. So they don't have to play by any of the rules. They can circumvent all of these guardrails to try and prevent this. And there you go. You can have code signed by Rockstar Games. So it makes me wonder, we're going through all this effort to sign our AppSource apps. There is no validation of the code signing. There's no validation of the certificate on AppSource. So could someone, I of course would never recommend this, but could a malicious actor sign an AppSource app using an expired stolen certificate for Rockstar Games and push it into AppSource? I would venture to bet it would be possible. Would never recommend that, but not that anyone would go to that trouble, but it's a possibility. And next up, great quote by Zach Corman, the S in MCP stands for security. You heard that right, folks. If you are using, utilizing, creating, managing, touching an MCP server, there is absolutely zero security. And you are exposing yourself, your works, your infrastructure, all of your AI-related infrastructure using an MCP to just unlimited security risk. So he has done numerous tests to exploit MCP server vulnerabilities, and he is demonstrating here, if you put malicious instructions into an agent skill, Gemini 3 Pro will follow them. Also, an MCP server can tell Gemini to save a skill, and it will. Basically, inserting the exploit into your AI as a skill. Phenomenal work here. How to introduce subtle remote code executions into your AI skills. So, if you are using an MCP, buckle up. 2026 events, Vibe conference coming up in less than 2 weeks, South Padre Island, Texas. I shall be there, hopefully, if all goes well and I don't get some random new illness. April 27th in Orlando is Directions NA. Dynamics Con is in May in Las Vegas, Nevada. Dynamics Minds, May 25th through 27th in Slovenia. So, lots of conferences to attend here. Okay, moving on. Friday, Viernes. Partner in Vibe Conference, 28th. I have 3 sessions there. And Friday, Viernes, 2026 pricing updates. I need to work on that today. I have to update AppSource app prices, consulting development rates, support plans. And we need to get a new menu out of all these services. So you may understand what that's like every year. And I am going to try to debug a PTE in a customer sandbox. On the pricing updates, this is all part of a conversation of how do you provide services to SaaS customers. And David Laster proposed doing a session with me. Thank you, David. At Vibe, we'll be talking about modern support for modern SaaS, rethinking managed service for Dynamics in the cloud. We are past the by the hour implementation and time and materials, and customers are looking for subscription managed service agreements for their subscription SaaS products. So how do you communicate that? How do you document that? What type of contracts? What type of SLAs? What type of MSAs? What type of help desk? And it's a challenge for those of us who come from the on-prem world who have not fully transitioned over to a fully subscription manner. I'm working on it, but still gotta organize it. So we have that session, and I will be debugging this absolute monstrosity in a customer PT, or a customer's PT in their sandbox. Works fine in my dev sandbox, but when it deploys in a customer environment, over 1,440 events fire. Yes. Those of you who have been working with Business Central and Nav for years understand this. This is new to me. So I need to figure out which of the 1,400 plus events is interfering with my inadvisable manipulation of Business Central data in order to do what the customer wants. And it is literally one field, and it is causing this cascade of event firings that I now need to try to very carefully roll back to see if I can get my PT to work without causing catastrophic problems in the customer's environment. So, wish me luck. Buen provecho. Okay, moving on. Summit NA Roadshows. Just had one in Nashville, January 15th. Next one is January 22nd. Double check those dates, and I have not seen if there's anything else in January or after January. DynamicsCon Regionals. I have been told that the one in Tampa went well, and there is one in Vancouver in March and one in Denver in April. Double check those dates. And in Berlin, El Salvador, some of the team is back from vacation, so we're getting back in the swing of things. Jocelyn is studying hard for MB800, and she is going to participate in a new, Feed It to AI. Let's see. Sorry, there's a little delay in the comments. What am I feeding to AI? Oh, I have fed it to AI, and I have concluded that, and this is part of our discussion that you contributed previously, that AI development, vibe coding in the context of Business Central using AL is very different than greenfield web development, right? So Pavlo, we discussed this previously in a chat, in a live stream. And one of the significant challenges of AL vibe coding is the AI is just not as smart in understanding what's going on in Business Central. Even if you point it to Business Central code, which I did, I spent over an hour having a conversation in plan mode trying to figure this out. It sent me down 2 dead ends. We tried one, didn't work. We tried another, didn't work. And so I am now down to manually curating these events to figure out which one is going to roll back these events enough to get my PDE to work. And at least we then know the problem. And then I need to know how to selectively try to reintroduce some of these third-party events to allow those ISV solutions to work properly. So I think this is a case where vibe coding currently is at a limit. And maybe there's a super clever way to do this, but we don't have the third-party ISV code, right? So, and the AI won't know the consequences of bypassing some of these events. So this is where some really detailed surgery needs to be involved. And I think this is the limit of AL vibe coding, honestly, my humble opinion. So excellence update. Jocelyn is studying for MB800, getting close to being ready to take the exam. She's going to be involved in a new app review that we're building. David is also doing MB800. He's tackling some report layouts. Ronald is our partner dashboard ops manager, and he was responsible for final testing of our partner dashboard, which will allow us to manage all of our customer tenants from one Business Central page. Awesome. And he is brushing up on Continia. We have a few demos coming up, and he is also leading the unenviable task of learning how to deal with 1099s in Business Central. Franklin is the developer of our partner dashboard. He quickly submitted and vibe coded and vibe PR'd a few new PRs. He is just cranking out code like a madman now. So in the morning, we talk about a feature change. He vibe codes it. I have a PR in a couple hours in my inbox I need to approve. Fully vibe coded commits, fully vibe coded PRs with vibe coded description. I read it. Awesome. Click, approve, bang, new release. Fully automated release pipeline drops into our OneDrive. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Fatima takes her PMP certification exam next week in San Salvador. It is a 2-day journey in order to go to San Salvador, get a hotel, in order to take the exam early the next morning, and hopefully it goes well, and then go back to Berlin. So we're talking 2 full days just to take the certification. So she has earned it. She has spent months studying for this. So wish her well. Best wishes to her. She's done an awesome job. So she will be a PMI, PMP certified member of ERP Center of Excellence in Berlin, El Salvador. Truly amazing. And she will be leading our Dynamics user group, which I believe is scheduled for February. Yes, so Pavla says, fully vibe coding is a rabbit hole. Changed my mind. Yes, it is a fun rabbit hole though, right? Like my vibe coding laundry list is so long, and I should have brought up the tweet. Let me see if I can find it live. It is so absolutely true, because my vibe coding list is so long because I would have never even put these things on a list. Here it is. Here we go. So let me just put this on the Q&A slide because it is, oops. Okay, one moment. Live stream. We're doing it live. Okay, so let's get this down to 60%. Slap it in this bad boy, and it is ready to go. Okay, so congratulations to the ERP Center of Excellence team. They are killing it, and it's just truly amazing what they've accomplished. Okay, moving on to Q&A. And this is the quote I was talking about, vibe coding, rabbit hole. Before AI coding agents, I'd constantly have 2 or 3 side projects I'd struggle to finish. AI completely changed the game. I now have 15 to 20 unfinished side projects. Cheers. Cheers to David K. He nailed it. I fully agree. And now let me send this to the back. Okay. So he nailed it. So in the Q&A, I have fallen into the pattern of every single thing I see, assuming it's AI at this point. I basically can't trust anything I see with my eyes or hear, because when music comes up on my playlist, I'm like, is this AI music slop with a fully AI generated album cover? And like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I just can't tell anymore. And I'm finding that I'm discrediting or not enjoying the music because I think it might be AI generated. So I saw this, and this is absolute art. This is real. This is by a guy in Japan. On Twitter, he's NCZAT. And he did this for his own setup, but then I believe this is a customer that he had, someone who hired him to help him with this. This is real. These are not custom cables, but they're ordered in specific lengths in order to pull this off. Absolute work of art, masterpiece. Beautiful. And so NCZAT has his own setup, and then he did this for someone. And this is now what I look for. I look for man-made, human-made analog art. And this is just an absolute masterpiece. So he's got 3 laptops, 2 under the desk, 1 open off to the side. The wiring is just gorgeous. I mean, so I cleaned up about 15 wires when I had to replace this camera because it's a rat's nest behind my desk. And so along this line, they're just things that I'm starting to appreciate, not these highly polished, fancy YouTuber with the fancy lighting setup. This is a great channel. It's 2 young guys just doing the craziest stuff imaginable in the rented garage or workspace. And so they custom built a Ford V10 engine. Absolutely insane what what they accomplished. They like glued together a couple of engine blocks, had a custom engine parts, crankshafts, everything assembled to make a V10, shove it into a Lincoln, and drove it to SEMA to show at the auto show. Absolutely amazing. And so they're just got this low budget thing, a couple of lights and a cell phone to record what they're doing. And really, it's just grassroots YouTube content. And also along those lines, this is a guy, Adam. His channel is My Name is Adam. He's in the UK. He's got his little tiny garage or shed or something, and he does some type of car audio as his job, I think. And he tries to build these crazy things, do these crazy experiments, and endlessly entertaining on absolute super frugal budget. So for 80 pounds, he buys something from Tebow, then tries to do a better job by harvesting speakers from destroyed cars in a junkyard. Phenomenal. So that's what I'm enjoying now. Just low tech, hands-on content, no AI. And it's really enjoyable. Anyway, that's what's up. I'm going to take it easy today. Got a cold, got a headache, got a bad eye, and que tengas un buen fin de semana. Nos vemos.